welcome to Monvidia Capital. Today, we are excited to dive into a thought-provoking examination of the 20 profound lessons that the Bible imparts about money. In a world that is often consumed by materialism and financial pursuits, the wisdom contained within the scriptures offers invaluable insights that transcend time and culture. We are confident that by exploring these teachings, we will gain a deeper understanding of the principles of stewardship, contentment, generosity, and so much more. These timeless truths can guide our financial decisions, shape our attitudes, and ultimately lead us towards a more meaningful and purposeful relationship with money. So let's get started. Stewardship. The Bible teaches that all things belong to God, and we are stewards of the resources He has entrusted to us. Psalm 24, 1 Corinthians 4, 2. The concept of stewardship underscores our responsibility to manage the resources God has provided us with care and wisdom. This includes our finances, possessions, time, and talents. As stewards, we are accountable to God for how we use these resources to benefit His kingdom and others. This perspective shifts our focus from ownership to accountability, reminding us to make choices that align with God's values. Stewardship encourages a sense of humility, recognizing that our wealth and blessings are gifts from God. It urges us to be mindful of how we use our resources, striving to promote justice, alleviate suffering, and advance God's purposes. This mindset fosters a deeper connection to our Creator and a commitment to using our resources for His glory. By understanding ourselves as stewards, we become intentional about investing in areas that reflect God's priorities, such as helping the less fortunate, supporting missions, and contributing to the well-being of our communities. Ultimately, stewardship invites us to view our financial decisions as opportunities for worship and service, aligning our actions with God's divine plan for creation. In this role of stewardship, we find purpose and fulfillment, recognizing that our faithful management of resources is a reflection of our faith and devotion to God. This principle calls us to use our wealth and possessions not for selfish gain, but to further God's kingdom and make a positive impact in the lives of others. Through responsible stewardship, we live out our faith in practical ways, demonstrating our love for God and our fellow human beings. Contentment. In 1 Timothy 6:8, the Apostle Paul underscores the value of contentment, emphasizing that godliness with contentment is great gain. Hebrews 13:5 advises believers to be content with what they have, for God will never leave nor forsake them. This teaches us to find satisfaction not in accumulating wealth, but in cultivating a heart of gratitude and peace. The concept of contentment, as espoused in the Holy Scriptures, is a profound truth that speaks to the very essence of wealth and fulfillment. In a world that is consumed by the insatiable desire for more, the principle of contentment offers a countercultural perspective that is imbued with spiritual insight and wisdom. The Apostle Paul, in his letter to Timothy, extols the virtues of contentment, emphasizing that true wealth lies not in the accumulation of material possessions, but in the alignment of our lives with godliness. This perspective challenges the prevailing mindset that equates prosperity with success and invites us to evaluate the true sources of joy and satisfaction in our lives. Similarly, the book of Hebrews assures believers of God's unwavering presence and provision, encouraging us to place our trust in Him rather than in the fleeting pleasures of material wealth. By cultivating a heart of gratitude and humility, we are able to find joy in the simple pleasures of life and experience a deep and lasting sense of security in our relationship with God. Practicing contentment requires a deliberate shift in mindset, one that involves recognizing the blessings we already possess and finding joy in the present moment. It is not a call to complacency, but rather an invitation to live purposefully and give generously, in accordance with God's design for a meaningful and purposeful life. In a world that often measures success by external markers, the teachings on contentment challenge us to redefine our values and priorities and seek a balance between material needs and spiritual well-being. By embracing contentment, we are able to experience a deeper connection to our faith, find greater fulfillment, and live in harmony with God's divine plan for our lives. Hard work. Diligence and hard work are encouraged. Proverbs 6:11, Colossians 3:23. The virtues of diligence are extolled in the Bible's teachings on hard work, which emphasize a work ethic grounded in integrity, excellence, and a higher purpose. Proverbs 6:11 draws inspiration from the industriousness of ants, showcasing how these small creatures diligently gather and store food during the appropriate seasons. This passage serves as a metaphor for the value of consistent effort and planning in our own lives. It underscores the idea that success and provision often result from disciplined and purposeful work. Colossians 3:23 extends the concept of diligence by exhorting believers to approach their work as if they were serving the Lord Himself. This perspective transforms mundane tasks into acts of worship, reinforcing the idea that work has inherent spiritual significance. When we view our labor as a means of glorifying God, it instills a sense of purpose that transcends mere financial gain. The teachings on hard work champion a proactive and responsible attitude that seeks to contribute, grow, and make a meaningful impact. It encourages us to embrace our vocational roles with enthusiasm, diligence, and a commitment to excellence. By doing so, we reflect God's character and contribute positively to the world around us. This approach to work also teaches us to reject laziness and entitlement. Instead, it calls us to a higher standard that values challenges, perseverance, and continual improvement. Ultimately, the teachings on hard work inspire us to integrate our faith into every facet of our lives, fostering a holistic approach to labor that honors God, serves others, and leads to personal and collective flourishing. Generosity. The Bible advocates for generosity and giving to those in need. Proverbs 19:17, 2 Corinthians 9:6-7. The Bible promotes the virtue of generosity and encourages individuals to give to those who are in need, as evidenced in Proverbs 19:17 and 2 Corinthians 9:6-7. Generosity is a recurring theme in the Bible, reflecting God's own nature as the ultimate giver. Proverbs 19:17 emphasizes the spiritual significance of assisting those in need, highlighting the idea that lending to the poor is lending to the Lord. This verse underscores that acts of generosity are not only acts of compassion, but also acts of worship and service to God. The teachings of the Apostle Paul in 2 Corinthians 9:6-7 provide further insight into the principles of generosity. Paul encourages believers to give willingly, cheerfully, and proportionately to support those in need and advance the work of the kingdom. This passage emphasizes that generosity is not about compulsion or obligation, but stems from a heart that is genuinely motivated by love and compassion. Generosity, as taught in these verses, extends beyond financial giving. It encompasses a spirit of open-handedness and a willingness to share one's resources, time and talents for the betterment of others. This principle calls us to move beyond self-centeredness and materialism, recognizing that our blessings are meant to be a blessing to others. The teachings on generosity remind us of the interconnectedness of humanity and the importance of empathy. By helping those in need, we participate in God's redemptive plan for the world, demonstrating love and compassion in tangible ways. This aligns with the biblical concept of being good stewards of what God has entrusted to us, as our resources are not solely for our benefit, but for the common good. Generosity also invites us to cultivate an attitude of abundance rather than scarcity. When we give generously, we acknowledge that God is the ultimate provider and that He can multiply our offerings to accomplish far more than we can imagine. This act of faith reflects our trust in God's ability to provide and sustain. Furthermore, the teachings on generosity challenge us to evaluate our priorities and attitudes toward material possessions. They prompt us to loosen our grip on worldly treasures and invest in eternal treasures by supporting causes that align with God's purposes. In a world marked by inequality and pressing social needs, The teachings on generosity guide us to actively participate in addressing these challenges. Through our generosity, we become instruments of God's grace, extending His love and compassion to those who are marginalized, oppressed, and in need. Debt avoidance. Scripture advises against excessive borrowing and debt. Proverbs 22:7, Romans 13:8. The Bible provides valuable guidance on financial management, including the principle of debt avoidance. Proverbs 22:7 cautions that the rich rules over the poor, and the borrower is the slave of the lender, emphasizing the potential consequences of excessive debt. Indebtedness can lead to financial bondage and stress, relinquishing control over our lives and resources. Romans 13:8 reinforces this principle by urging believers to owe no one anything except to love each other. While this verse does not categorically prohibit all forms of debt, it highlights the importance of love and responsible financial stewardship. Debt, when not managed wisely, can hinder our ability to fulfill the command to love and care for others. The teachings on debt avoidance underscore the significance of prudence, self-control, and careful planning in financial matters. The Bible encourages us to live within our means, avoid extravagant lifestyles, and prioritize responsible money management. This approach aligns with the broader theme of stewardship, recognizing that the resources we have are entrusted to us by God and should be managed wisely for His glory. Excessive debt can strain relationships, lead to anxiety, and hinder our ability to contribute positively to our communities. By practicing debt avoidance, we free ourselves from the burdens of financial stress and create space to live more generously and purposefully. However, it is crucial to acknowledge that not all debt is inherently negative. Responsible borrowing for essential needs, such as education, housing, or business ventures, can be appropriate when approached with careful consideration and a clear plan for repayment. The key is to avoid taking on debt that exceeds our ability to manage it, prioritize our obligations, and ensure that our financial decisions align with our values and responsibilities. In a culture that often promotes easy credit and instant gratification, the teachings on debt avoidance remind us to make intentional and informed choices about our financial commitments. By embracing this principle, we position ourselves to live more freely, give more generously, and navigate our financial journeys with wisdom and integrity. Honesty. Honesty and integrity in financial dealings are emphasized. Proverbs 11:1, Luke 16:10-12. The teachings of the Bible regarding honesty in financial matters emphasize the significance of integrity, transparency, and ethical conduct. Proverbs 11:1 states, "Dishonest scales are an abomination to the Lord, but a just weight is His delight." This verse highlights the repugnant nature of deceit in financial transactions and reinforces the notion that our financial interactions should be characterized by impartiality, precision, and veracity. In Luke 16:10-12, Jesus underscores the correlation between faithfulness in minor matters and greater responsibilities. He asserts, "Whoever is faithful in very little is also faithful in much, and whoever is dishonest in very little is also dishonest in much." This teaching reveals the moral and spiritual implications of our financial conduct, regardless of its magnitude. Our attitudes and actions in financial dealings reflect our character and integrity before God. The teachings on honesty challenge us to conduct ourselves in a manner that reflects the values of God's kingdom. This includes avoiding deceit, fraud, and manipulation in financial transactions. Instead, we are called to be trustworthy stewards who honor God through our interactions with money. Honesty extends beyond our actions. It encompasses our motives and intentions. It encourages us to examine our hearts and ensure that our financial decisions are rooted in ethical principles rather than self-serving interests. This aligns with the broader theme of living a life that reflects our commitment to following Christ's teachings. Practicing honesty in financial matters also builds trust in relationships. It fosters an environment of integrity and credibility, enabling us to form genuine connections and partnerships based on mutual respect and accountability. By embodying honesty, we contribute to the well-being of our communities and promote social harmony. Furthermore, the teachings on honesty challenge us to consider our priorities. Are we more focused on personal gain or on honoring God and serving others? Cultivating an attitude of honesty and integrity redirects our focus from self-centered pursuits to a commitment to upholding God's principles in all areas of life. In a world that often values financial success at any cost, the Bible's teachings on honesty serve as a guiding light, directing us to navigate financial decisions with a clear conscience and a commitment to righteousness. By upholding these principles, we reflect God's character, promote justice, and contribute to a society built on trust and moral integrity. Avoidance of greed. Greed is warned against as it can lead to ruin. 1 Timothy 6:9-10, Luke 12:15. The teachings of the Bible regarding the avoidance of greed serve to underscore the potential dangers of excessive desire for wealth and material possessions. In 1 Timothy 6:9-10, the Apostle Paul cautions that the love of money is a root of all kinds of evils, and that some have strayed from their faith and suffered greatly as a result of their craving for wealth. This passage highlights the negative consequences of prioritizing the pursuit of wealth over spiritual values. Luke 12:15 further reinforces this message, as Jesus warns against covetousness and reminds us that our worth is not determined by the abundance of our possessions. This admonition challenges the prevailing notion that material wealth is the ultimate measure of success, and instead directs our attention to the importance of spiritual growth and the fleeting nature of worldly possessions. The teachings on avoiding greed encourage us to prioritize values such as contentment, gratitude, and compassion over insatiable accumulation. Greed distorts our perspective, leading us to prioritize selfish desires and temporal gains over the well-being of others and our own spiritual development. Greed often fosters a sense of entitlement and dissatisfaction as the pursuit of more becomes a never-ending cycle. This constant striving for material gain can lead to emptiness, anxiety, and a sense of unfulfillment. By heeding the Bible's warnings, we learn to break free from this cycle and discover true fulfillment through a relationship with God and a life marked by generosity and purpose. Furthermore, the teachings on avoiding greed remind us of the importance of proper stewardship. Instead of hoarding resources for personal gain, we are called to manage our wealth in ways that honor God and benefit those in need. Greed stands in direct contrast to the principles of stewardship and generosity, hindering our ability to use our resources for the betterment of others and the advancement of God's kingdom. In a world that often glorifies materialism and the accumulation of wealth, the Bible's teachings on the avoidance of greed offer a countercultural perspective. By embracing contentment, practicing selflessness, and prioritizing spiritual growth, we align ourselves with a deeper sense of purpose and a higher calling that transcends the fleeting allure of material possessions. Planning and budgeting. Wise financial planning is recommended. Proverbs 21:5, Luke 14:28. The teachings of the Bible regarding planning and budgeting emphasize the importance of responsible financial management, guiding individuals to approach their resources with foresight and wisdom. Proverbs 21:5 highlights the significance of thoughtful planning and disciplined execution in achieving financial stability, stating, "The plans of the diligent lead surely to abundance, but everyone who is hasty comes only to poverty." In Luke 14:28-30, Jesus utilizes the analogy of a tower builder to convey the need for careful consideration before embarking on a project. He advises individuals to assess their financial goals, set priorities, and devise strategies to achieve them, emphasizing the importance of both short-term and long-term implications. Wise financial planning and budgeting guard against impulsive and reckless behavior, helping individuals avoid debt, overspending, and financial stress. By taking a deliberate approach, Individuals acknowledge their role as stewards of God's provisions and demonstrate responsible management of the blessings entrusted to them. Furthermore, these teachings promote a mindset of accountability and transparency, encouraging individuals to evaluate their financial practices, identify areas of improvement, and make necessary adjustments. This self-awareness fosters a sense of discipline, humility, and a willingness to align financial decisions with God's principles. The teachings on planning and budgeting also reflect the broader concept of stewardship, reminding individuals that their financial decisions have far-reaching consequences, impacting not only their personal lives, but also their ability to contribute to the well-being of their families, communities, and the work of God's kingdom. In a world marked by consumerism and instant gratification, the Bible's teachings on planning and budgeting offer a countercultural perspective. By exercising discipline and foresight, individuals position themselves to navigate financial challenges, achieve their goals, and contribute meaningfully to the flourishing of their lives and the lives of others. Prioritization, putting God first and seeking His kingdom, takes precedence over material pursuits. Matthew 6:33. The teachings of the Bible regarding planning and budgeting emphasize the importance of responsible financial management, guiding individuals to approach their resources with foresight and wisdom. Proverbs 21:5 highlights the significance of thoughtful planning and disciplined execution in achieving financial stability, stating, "The plans of the diligent lead surely to abundance, but everyone who is hasty comes only to poverty." In Luke 14:28-30, Jesus utilizes the analogy of a tower builder to convey the need for careful consideration before embarking on a project. He advises individuals to assess their financial goals, set priorities, and devise strategies to achieve them, emphasizing the importance of both short-term and long-term implications. Wise financial planning and budgeting guard against impulsive and reckless behavior, helping individuals avoid debt, overspending, and financial stress. By taking a deliberate approach, individuals acknowledge their role as stewards of God's provisions and demonstrate responsible management of the blessings entrusted to them. Furthermore, these teachings promote a mindset of accountability and transparency, encouraging individuals to evaluate their financial practices, identify areas of improvement, and make necessary adjustments. This self-awareness fosters a sense of discipline, humility, and a willingness to align financial decisions with God's principles. The teachings on planning and budgeting also reflect the broader concept of stewardship, reminding individuals that their financial decisions have far-reaching consequences, impacting not only their personal lives, but also their ability to contribute to the well-being of their families, communities, and the work of God's kingdom. In a world marked by consumerism and instant gratification, the Bible's teachings on planning and budgeting offer a countercultural perspective. By exercising discipline and foresight, individuals position themselves to navigate financial challenges, achieve their goals, and contribute meaningfully to the flourishing of their lives and the lives of others. Avoidance of unjust gain, ill-gotten wealth is discouraged. Proverbs 13:11, Proverbs 28:8. The ethical dimension of financial pursuits and the moral implications of how wealth is acquired are highlighted by the Bible's teachings on the avoidance of unjust gain. Proverbs 13:11 cautions against seeking shortcuts or engaging in dishonest practices to amass wealth quickly, emphasizing instead the value of patient, honest efforts in financial endeavors. This verse states, "Wealth gained hastily will dwindle, but whoever gathers little by little will increase it." Proverbs 28:8 reinforces this principle, condemning the exploitation of others for personal gain, particularly through usurious lending practices. This verse declares, "Whoever increases his wealth by interest and profit gathers it for him who is generous to the poor." It underscores the importance of ethical conduct in financial dealings and the consequences of ill-gotten wealth. The teachings on the avoidance of unjust gain challenge us to consider the integrity of our actions and the impact they have on others. Pursuing wealth at the expense of honesty, fairness, and compassion contradicts the values of God's kingdom. It leads to a distortion of priorities and a neglect of the well-being of those around us. In a world that often values financial success above all else, the Bible's teachings provide a moral compass that directs us away from the pitfalls of greed and exploitation. They guide us to conduct our financial affairs with transparency, honesty, and a commitment to the well-being of others. Furthermore, the principle of avoiding unjust gain extends to our broader economic and societal interactions. It calls us to support just policies, oppose corruption, and advocate for fairness in economic systems. By aligning our actions with these principles, we contribute to the promotion of social justice and the betterment of communities. Ultimately, the teachings on the avoidance of unjust gain emphasize the interconnectedness of our financial decisions with our moral and spiritual values. They challenge us to cultivate an attitude of stewardship that goes beyond mere accumulation of wealth, focusing instead on the responsible, ethical use of our resources for the greater good. By adhering to these teachings, we honor God, uphold justice, and contribute to a world marked by integrity and compassion. Fair wages and treatment of workers. Employers are urged to pay fair wages and treat their workers justly. James 5:4, Colossians 4:1. The teachings of the Bible regarding fair wages and the treatment of workers highlight the significance of justice, compassion, and dignity in the realm of labor. James 5:4 admonishes employers, stating, "Behold, the wages of the laborers who mowed your fields, which you kept back by fraud, are crying out against you, and the cries of the harvesters have reached the ears of the Lord of hosts." This verse confronts injustices such as wage theft and exploitation, reminding employers of their responsibility to ensure equitable compensation for their workers' labor. Colossians 4:1 reinforces the principle of just treatment, instructing masters to give your slaves what is just and fair, knowing that you also have a master in heaven. While this verse addresses the context of slavery, its broader application urges employers to extend fairness and respect to all those under their authority. The teachings on fair wages and treatment of workers affirm the inherent worth and dignity of every individual, regardless of their social or economic status. They challenge us to view our employees or colleagues not merely as means to an end, but as fellow human beings, deserving of respect, equitable treatment, and the opportunity to thrive. These teachings also emphasize the concept of reciprocity and accountability. As employers, we are accountable to God for how we manage the resources entrusted to us, including the treatment of those who work for us. Just as we expect fairness and justice from others, we are called to extend the same principles to our workers. In a world marked by economic inequalities and labor exploitation, the Bible's teachings provide a moral framework that guides us towards more equitable and humane practices. They inspire us to examine our business models, hiring practices, and treatment of employees to ensure they align with God's standards of justice and compassion. Furthermore, the principle of fair wages and just treatment extends beyond the workplace. It has broader implications for our interactions with others and our commitment to social justice. By advocating for fair wages and dignified treatment, we contribute to a more just and compassionate society that reflects the values of God's kingdom. Incorporating these teachings into our business practices and daily interactions fosters an environment of trust, mutual respect, and human flourishing. It reflects our commitment to honoring God through our actions and serves as a testament to the transformative power of biblical principles in shaping a more just and compassionate world. Savings and provision. The Bible encourages saving for future needs and providing for one's family. Proverbs 21:20, 1 Timothy 5:8. The teachings of the Bible regarding savings and provision emphasize the significance of prudent financial planning, responsible stewardship, and the welfare of one's family. Proverbs 21:20 highlights the value of foresight and preparedness, comparing the wise accumulation of resources to the reckless consumption of a fool. This verse underscores the importance of managing resources with wisdom and foresight. In 1 Timothy 5:8, the Apostle Paul emphasizes the ethical responsibility to care for one's family, including financial provision for their needs and welfare. This passage stresses the need to manage resources responsibly and to provide for one's family. The teachings on savings and provision reflect the biblical principle of stewardship, encouraging us to manage our resources with wisdom and foresight. By saving for future needs, we acknowledge the uncertainties of life and take practical steps to ensure financial security and stability. Savings also align with the broader theme of responsibility, encompassing not only the immediate needs of our families, but also the ability to respond to unexpected events and opportunities. Preparedness through savings allows us to navigate life's challenges with resilience and to offer support to others in times of need. Furthermore, the Bible's teachings on savings and provision foster an attitude of gratitude and contentment. When we manage our resources prudently, we reduce the likelihood of financial stress and anxiety. This, in turn, frees us to focus on the blessings we have and to cultivate a deeper sense of gratitude for God's provision. The principle of savings extends beyond individual and family well-being. It enables us to contribute more effectively to our communities, support charitable causes, and participate in the work of God's kingdom. By managing our finances responsibly, we position ourselves to be instruments of generosity and positive impact. In a world marked by consumerism and instant gratification, the Bible's teachings on savings and provision offer a countercultural perspective. They remind us that financial decisions have far-reaching implications and encourage us to adopt a long-term view that prioritizes the well-being of our families, communities, and the advancement of God's purposes. Through wise financial planning and responsible stewardship, we embody the values of God's kingdom and contribute to a more secure and flourishing future. Avoidance of usury. Charging excessive interest is condemned. Exodus 22:25, Leviticus 25:36. The teachings of the Bible regarding the avoidance of usury emphasize the ethical treatment of others in financial transactions and underscore the negative consequences of exploiting those in need. In Exodus 22:25, God's law mandates that, if you lend money to any of my people with you who is poor, you shall not be like a moneylender to him, and you shall not exact interest from him. This command challenges the practice of charging excessive interest, particularly from the vulnerable and less fortunate. Leviticus 25:36 reinforces this principle, stating, "Take no interest from him or profit, but fear your God, that your brother may live beside you." This verse underscores the importance of compassion, fairness, and reverence for God in financial dealings. It redirects the focus from personal gain to the well-being of others and acknowledges the interconnectedness of humanity. The teachings on the avoidance of usury encourage us to prioritize compassion over profit, especially when interacting with those who are economically disadvantaged. Charging excessive interest can exacerbate the financial struggles of others, leading to cycles of debt and hardship. By refraining from such practices, we demonstrate a commitment to justice, kindness, and the values of God's kingdom. This principle also reflects the broader concept of stewardship, reminding us that our financial resources are meant to be managed in ways that promote the common good. Usury contradicts this principle by prioritizing self-interest over the well-being of our fellow human beings. In a world where financial exploitation and predatory lending are prevalent, the Bible's teachings on usury offer a timeless moral compass. They guide us to conduct our financial affairs with integrity, empathy, and a genuine concern for the welfare of others. By adhering to these teachings, we contribute to a more just and equitable society, where the financial well-being of all individuals is upheld and protected. Furthermore, the principle of avoiding usury extends beyond personal interactions to broader economic systems and policies. It challenges us to advocate for just lending practices, oppose exploitative financial arrangements, and work towards economic structures that prioritize the dignity and welfare of every person. By embracing the teachings on the avoidance of usury, we demonstrate our commitment to living out the values of God's kingdom and contributing to a world marked by compassion, fairness, and economic justice. Avoiding the love of money. The love of money can lead to spiritual harm. 1 Timothy 6:10, Hebrews 13:5. The teachings of the Bible regarding the avoidance of the love of money serve to underscore the potential spiritual dangers associated with an unhealthy attachment to wealth and material possessions. In 1 Timothy 6:10, the Apostle Paul cautions that the love of money is a root of all kinds of evils. It is through this craving that some have wandered away from the faith and pierced themselves with many pangs. This passage highlights the corrosive effects of prioritizing the pursuit of wealth over spiritual well-being. Hebrews 13:5 further reinforces this warning, stating, "Keep your life free from the love of money, and be content with what you have, for he has said, 'I will never leave you nor forsake you.'" This verse encourages believers to find contentment and security in God's presence, rather than in the accumulation of material possessions. The teachings on avoiding the love of money challenge us to evaluate our attitudes, desires, and priorities. They remind us that the relentless pursuit of wealth can lead to spiritual poverty, causing us to neglect our relationship with God and the pursuit of genuine, lasting fulfillment. The love of money can foster a sense of greed, selfishness, and discontentment. It can lead to the neglect of our spiritual development and our responsibilities to care for others. By fixating on material gain, we risk losing sight of the higher purposes and values that bring true meaning to life. These teachings also emphasize the importance of cultivating a heart of contentment and gratitude. Instead of always seeking more, we are called to recognize and appreciate the blessings we already have. Contentment liberates us from the cycle of constant striving and allows us to experience joy regardless of our financial circumstances. In a world driven by consumerism and the pursuit of endless accumulation, the Bible's teachings on avoiding the love of money offer a counter-cultural perspective. They invite us to break free from the trappings of materialism, embrace a spirit of generosity, and prioritize our relationship with God and the well-being of others. By aligning our hearts and desires with God's principles, we guard against the spiritual harm that can result from an excessive attachment to money. We learn to use our resources as tools for God's purposes, reflecting His character of love, compassion, and selflessness in all our financial decisions. Prudence and wisdom. Seek wisdom in financial decision-making. Proverbs 3:13-18, Proverbs 16:16. The teachings of the Bible on prudence and wisdom underscore the crucial role of discernment and insight in managing finances. Proverbs 3:13-18 eloquently portrays wisdom as more valuable than silver and gold, proclaiming, "Blessed are those who find wisdom, those who gain understanding, for she is more profitable than silver and yields better returns than gold." This passage emphasizes the importance of seeking wisdom as an essential component of making sound financial decisions. Proverbs 16:16 further reinforces this principle, stating, "How much better to get wisdom than gold, to get insight rather than silver." This verse draws a clear distinction between worldly wealth and the enduring value of wisdom. It encourages us to prioritize gaining insight and understanding as we navigate financial decisions. The teachings on prudence and wisdom guide us to approach financial matters with careful consideration, thoughtful analysis, and a willingness to seek counsel. Rather than making impulsive choices driven by immediate gratification, we are called to take a deliberate, informed approach that aligns with God's principles and purposes. Seeking wisdom in financial decision-making involves acknowledging our limitations and recognizing that we need guidance beyond our own understanding. It requires humility to seek advice, learn from others' experiences, and apply timeless principles to modern financial challenges. Furthermore, these teachings foster an awareness of the broader implications of our financial choices. Wisdom prompts us to consider the impact of our decisions on our families, communities, and the advancement of God's kingdom. It encourages us to adopt a long-term perspective that extends beyond immediate gains to enduring value. In a culture marked by impulsive spending, debt, and materialism, the Bible's teachings on prudence and wisdom offer a countercultural perspective. They invite us to exercise self-discipline, avoid hasty judgments, and prioritize the development of a discerning mind that aligns with God's will. By integrating wisdom into our financial decision-making, we position ourselves to navigate life's complexities with insight, integrity, and purpose. We recognize that true wealth extends beyond monetary assets and encompasses a life enriched by knowledge, understanding, and a deeper connection with God. Equality in giving. Encouragement to give according to one's ability. 2 Corinthians 8:12. The Bible's teachings on equality in giving underscore the principle of generosity and highlight the importance of contributing to the well-being of others according to one's means. In 2 Corinthians 8:12, the Apostle Paul states, "For if the willingness is there, the gift is acceptable according to what one has, not according to what one does not have." This verse challenges the notion that giving should be driven by comparison or competition, emphasizing instead the heart's willingness and the importance of giving within one's capacity. The teaching of equality in giving reflects a spirit of inclusivity and compassion. It recognizes that each person's circumstances and resources vary and encourages a perspective of understanding and empathy. Rather than creating an environment of judgment or guilt, this principle fosters an atmosphere of unity, where every contribution, regardless of its size, is valued and honored. This teaching also emphasizes the idea of cheerful and voluntary giving. It encourages a sense of joy and fulfillment in sharing one's resources to support the needs of others. By focusing on the heart's willingness rather than the amount given, the emphasis shifts from external measurements to the inner motivation that drives acts of generosity. Equality in giving also challenges the prevailing cultural emphasis on accumulation and self-interest. It promotes the idea that true fulfillment comes not from amassing personal wealth, but from participating in the collective well-being of the community. This principle aligns with the broader theme of selflessness and sacrificial love that Jesus exemplified and encourages us to follow. In a world where social disparities and economic inequalities are prevalent, the Bible's teachings on equality in giving offer a transformative perspective. They inspire us to evaluate our attitudes towards wealth and resources, fostering a sense of responsibility and compassion for those who are less fortunate. Ultimately, the principle of equality in giving invites us to participate in a culture of generosity, where each individual contributes to the greater good according to their unique abilities and circumstances. By embracing this teaching, we reflect God's love, promote social harmony, and contribute to a more just and equitable society. God's ownership of wealth, acknowledging that God owns all things, and we are his stewards. Deuteronomy 8:18, Haggai 2:8. The teachings of the Bible regarding God's ownership of wealth emphasize a fundamental truth that forms the basis of our perspective on material possessions and financial resources. Deuteronomy 8:18 states, "But you shall remember the Lord your God, for it is he who gives you the power to get wealth." This verse reminds us that God is the ultimate source of all our abilities, opportunities, and resources. It challenges the notion of self-sufficiency and directs our attention to the divine origin of our blessings. Haggai 2:8 further reinforces this principle, declaring, "The silver is mine and the gold is mine, says the Lord of hosts." These words underscore the sovereignty of God over all wealth and possessions. They highlight the temporal nature of material riches and the enduring value of recognizing God's ownership. The teachings on God's ownership of wealth invite us to adopt the posture of stewards rather than owners. As stewards, we acknowledge that everything we have is entrusted to us by God, and we are responsible for managing these resources in ways that align with his purposes and values. This perspective cultivates a sense of humility, gratitude, and accountability in how we handle our finances. Understanding God's ownership of wealth also challenges us to re-evaluate our priorities. It encourages us to move beyond the pursuit of personal gain and to consider how our resources can be used to fulfill God's purposes and advance His kingdom. This mindset shifts our focus from self-centered accumulation to a broader vision of contributing to the well-being of others and the betterment of society. Moreover, the teachings on God's ownership of wealth empower us to resist the trap of materialism and greed. When we recognize that our possessions are on loan from God, we become less attached to them and more open to sharing with those in need. This aligns with the principles of generosity, compassion, and social justice that are at the heart of the gospel message. In a world driven by consumerism and the relentless pursuit of wealth, the Bible's teachings on God's ownership of wealth offer a transformative perspective. They guide us to use our resources wisely, view material possessions as tools for God's purposes, and cultivate a heart of stewardship that honors God and contributes to the flourishing of humanity. Avoidance of get-rich-quick schemes. Quick wealth can bring trouble. Proverbs 13:11, Proverbs 28:20. The teachings of the Bible regarding the avoidance of get-rich-quick schemes serve as a cautionary reminder against the temptation of shortcuts to wealth and underscore the potential negative consequences of pursuing rapid riches. Proverbs 13:11 states that, "Wealth gained hastily will dwindle, but whoever gathers little by little will increase it." This verse emphasizes that the pursuit of quick wealth often leads to instability and ultimately fails to provide lasting security. Proverbs 28:20 further reinforces this principle by declaring that a faithful person will be richly blessed, but one eager to get rich will not go unpunished. This verse highlights the contrast between patient, faithful efforts and the impulsive desire for quick riches. It warns that the pursuit of wealth at any cost may lead to unfavorable outcomes. The teachings on avoiding get-rich-quick schemes encourage us to adopt a long-term perspective on financial success. Rather than seeking immediate gratification, we are called to make deliberate, diligent efforts that align with God's principles of integrity, hard work, and responsible stewardship. Get-rich-quick schemes often promote the idea of easy and effortless wealth, appealing to our desires for instant gratification. However, these teachings remind us that true financial well-being is built on a foundation of discipline, patience, and ethical conduct. The pursuit of quick riches can compromise our values, erode our character, and hinder our spiritual growth. Furthermore, the teachings on avoiding get-rich-quick schemes align with the broader theme of contentment and gratitude. They encourage us to find fulfillment in God's provision and to resist the mindset of always craving more. By prioritizing character over accumulation, we ensure that our pursuit of wealth remains aligned with our values and spiritual journey. In a world marked by the allure of shortcuts and the promise of instant success, the Bible's teachings on avoiding get-rich-quick schemes offer a countercultural perspective. They guide us to approach financial endeavors with discernment, critical thinking, and a commitment to principles that honor God and promote well-being. By heeding these teachings, we protect ourselves from the pitfalls of financial schemes that offer false promises, and we cultivate a lifestyle that reflects the values of integrity, wisdom, and responsible stewardship. Ultimately, these teachings contribute to a more grounded, purposeful, and spiritually enriching approach to managing our resources. Investing in eternity. Investing in spiritual matters and God's kingdom is encouraged. Matthew 6:19, 21, 1 Timothy 6:17, 19. The teachings of the Bible regarding investing in eternity emphasize the profound significance of directing our resources, efforts, and priorities towards spiritual matters and the advancement of God's kingdom. In Matthew 6:19-21, Jesus imparts a timeless truth, cautioning against the accumulation of earthly treasures that are subject to decay and theft, and instead urging the accumulation of treasures in heaven that are eternal. This passage challenges us to transcend the temporal allure of material wealth and instead focus on accumulating spiritual treasures that have eternal value. It directs our attention towards actions that contribute to God's kingdom, emphasizing the lasting significance of investing in relationships, service, compassion, and acts of kindness. Similarly, in 1 Timothy 6:17-19, the Apostle Paul provides guidance on wealthy individuals, encouraging them to use their resources for good works, generosity, and sharing, thus storing up treasure for themselves as a good foundation for the future, so that they may take hold of that which is truly life. The teachings on investing in eternity challenge us to consider how we allocate our resources, whether financial, time, talents, or influence, in ways that reflect our commitment to God's purposes. They remind us that true fulfillment comes from aligning our lives with values that transcend the fleeting pleasures and possessions of this world. Investing in eternity involves supporting causes that uplift the marginalized, promote justice, and bring hope to the broken-hearted. It includes engaging in acts of selfless service, nurturing relationships, and cultivating a heart of gratitude and contentment. By prioritizing spiritual growth and the well-being of others, we contribute to a legacy that extends beyond our earthly existence. These teachings also prompt us to evaluate our motives for financial success and to discern whether our pursuits align with God's will. They challenge us to steward our resources in ways that honor God and bless those around us. The call to invest in eternity reminds us that our lives are a temporary journey and the choices we make have eternal implications. In a world often consumed by materialism and self-centered pursuits, the Bible's teachings on investing in eternity offer a transformative paradigm shift. They inspire us to redirect our ambitions towards what truly matters, contributing to a more compassionate, just, and spiritually fulfilling existence that resonates throughout eternity. Money and happiness. True joy and fulfillment come from a relationship with God, not material possessions. Philippians 4:11-13, Ecclesiastes 5:10. The teachings of the Bible on the subjects of money and happiness provide a profound perspective on the relationship between material possessions and genuine contentment. In Philippians 4:11-13, the Apostle Paul shares his insight, stating that he has learned to be content in any situation. He has discovered the secret of facing plenty and hunger, abundance and need, and can do all things through the strength of God. This passage conveys a powerful truth. True happiness is not dependent on external circumstances or the accumulation of wealth. Instead, it stems from a deep and unwavering relationship with God. Paul's contentment arises from his reliance on God's strength, which transcends the ups and downs of material life. Similarly, Ecclesiastes 5:10 cautions that whoever loves money never has enough, and whoever loves wealth is never satisfied with their income. This verse underscores the insatiable nature of pursuing wealth for its own sake. It teaches that the pursuit of material possessions can lead to a never-ending cycle of dissatisfaction and unfulfillment. The teachings on money and happiness challenge the cultural narrative that equates prosperity with well-being. They remind us that while money can provide temporary comfort and security, it cannot satisfy the deepest longings of the human heart. True joy emerges from a sense of purpose, a connection with God, and meaningful relationships with others. These teachings encourage us to cultivate a mindset of contentment and gratitude, regardless of our financial circumstances. They invite us to shift our focus from the acquisition of possessions to the cultivation of qualities like love, compassion, generosity, and humility. By investing in our spiritual and emotional well-being, we lay the foundation for lasting happiness that transcends the fleeting nature of worldly wealth. In a world that often equates success with material abundance, the Bible's teachings on money and happiness offer a transformative alternative. They guide us to seek fulfillment through a vibrant relationship with God, authentic connections with others, and a lifestyle marked by gratitude, generosity, and inner peace. By aligning our priorities with these teachings, we embark on a journey toward genuine, enduring happiness that enriches our lives and positively impacts those around us. As we wrap up our journey through these 20 enlightening lessons from the Bible about money, let us confidently remember that true wealth goes beyond mere currency and possessions. These teachings empower us to use our resources as instruments for positive change, to prioritize compassion over accumulation, and to cultivate a deeper connection with God and our fellow humans. Let us embark on a path of mindful financial stewardship, guided by the principles of love, wisdom, and generosity. Thank you for joining us on this journey, and may these insights continue to inspire and shape your pursuit of a more fulfilling and purpose-driven life.